And so there was one employee, so Schmevin, right? And he's flirting with
Schmitney.
Schmitney. Okay. So Schmevin's flirting with Schmitney, and Schmevin is like, he's like trying to instigate. What did you call her? Schmitney? I'm like, I can't even keep a straight face doing this now. I'm like, what are we doing? So Schmitney's over here. I feel like you just said that just to get me to say it. I think you did. Because now I have to say them both.
Welcome to Big Business Mistakes, hosted by Brandon and Kaylin Poulin. Here, the most successful entrepreneurs tell jaw-dropping stories and lessons behind their biggest business mistakes so that you don't make them. Ditch the fake highlight reel and get the raw truths and golden lessons of what it actually takes to scale your business from those who have done it. This is Big Business Mistakes.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Big Business Mistakes Show. We're your hosts, Brandon and
Kaylin
Poulin.
We got it that time.
Oh, we had that in sync. I love it. And so excited for today's show. I don't know if I would be talking about this stuff that I'm going to talk about today if I had everybody from the previous organization that we ran, if those people still worked for us.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. It's like you can't publicly talk about like the people that work for you. That's just not a good idea.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be very sensitive to certain names and topics. But this is going to be a juicy show, guys.
Yeah, this is basically crazy employee stories.
And it's not like crazy, like they were crazy.
Right.
Right. But like the stories are crazy.
The stories
guys.
of people being people.
People are just people. Right.
Right.
They totally
but sometimes it'll cost you $30,000 for an eggplant picture.
Yeah. We decided we're going to call it the eggplant pic story. So we'll wrap up with that one, because that one's like one person sends another picture of his eggplant to another person,
to a female employee,
and how that all went.
Yeah.
And this stuff's crazy, guys. I was doing a call for the King's Brotherhood, one of the portfolio companies that we work with and one of the business that we're partnered in. And I was talking about some of these mistakes and crazy stories. And it's like, everybody thinks that, oh, it's just smooth and we find the right people. And we always see like all the best people on somebody else's team or somebody else's employees are like, oh, they're so awesome. And it's like, and then we hire people and they're just like a disaster, right? And some of it's all our fault, right? A lot of it's our fault as entrepreneurs.
You always say like it's not a people problem, it's a process problem, which I thought was always so good, because in the beginning when some of this stuff would happen, these stories we're going to talk about today that are super juicy and wild, but it's like it was never their fault. Like you always said that. You're like, it's not their fault. Like it's not a people problem. It's not the people, it's the process. And I think
sometimes it's the people.
Sometimes it's the people, but I just think that was such a good mindset always to have. Like you were never like, it's their fault, like they messed up, like like people had to take responsibility for things, but you were never the person that was like, oh my gosh, like all the people are just like, the people are the problem. Like that was never you. That was never like a thing that you ever said or a mentality that you had, which I think number one, like that could be someone's mistake in their business right now, is thinking like it's all the people problem when really you haven't built the process around the people to help them have success, or like even recruiting the right people, hiring the right people, like onboarding them the right way, culturing them the right way to know like, here's how inside of this company works. And so I just want to tell you, good job.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, honey. Appreciate that one.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's interesting because we could definitely fail our employees. And I would say more often than not, that's probably what happens. Right. But there's a point where you just don't have the right person. And if you don't have the right person, then you need to look at like, how did I get them? How did they end up here? Because you hired them, right? Yeah. Or somebody did.
Right. There was a fail point in the process.
Somebody did. And, everyone's learning and growing and on their own journey. But there's absolutely a lot to say about, have you equipped them? Like, have we recruited them right? Have we equipped and trained them? Do they know what success looks like? Do they have a number that they know that they're successful? Like how does each person on your team know that they're successful, right? These are all things that you have to answer. Otherwise, you're going to waste your money when you hire people because they're not going to be equipped and wound up and pointed in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, but at the same time, people are people, and some crazy stuff like this has happened. And so
And that's
I
what
want to
today's stories are about.
I want to open up. I want to open up.
When it was the
Yeah.
people, not the process. Just kidding.
But actually, it's kind of like it was the person, and then I realized what failed in the process, and that's
Correct.
like that's what's going to come out of this. So we'll talk about like some very specific, some stories that had happened, some very specific events, and then
Lawsuits, government getting involved, having OSHA show up to our office.
Oh my gosh, because we had wires hanging from the ceilings and everything. Yeah. Oh, guys, this is gonna be a good one. I hope this doesn't come back to bite me.
Probably.
I'm like, I should have called my lawyer before I filmed this one. They'd be like, don't do it.
Well, it's good. It's good though, because you guys need to hear it. Because this is the stuff that like you always talk about building the moat around your business, like how to protect yourself, right? And it's like
Totally.
it's the things like these when you don't have protection in place that could totally like take you under. Like any one of these things could have totally like wiped us.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and some of them did, like they took me emotionally under.
Yeah.
Like I got drugged down into the depths of the ocean, like drowning and like just dealing with it. Like it's tough. It's no joke. You build this like skin almost. So the first story I want to tell is we'll call her Shmisha. Okay. Shmisha. So we can
we're really starting at the beginning of the timeline and working our way forward, because the first one I feel like was maybe the least of these, but at the same time,
this one was the hardest for me.
I know it was the hardest because it was
hardest for me.
That's what I'm saying. You hadn't built the skin yet.
No,
so by the time like the eggplant pic happened, like, dude, you had already built, like you had like armored skin. You're like a rhinoceros by that point, and like it didn't even phase you. You know what I mean?
I love how we have like the timeline of eggplant, rhino. I don't know what's happening. So we I had hired an assistant, right?
Yeah.
And let's call her Shmisha, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so during the interview, I remember one thing really specifically she had said, which was like, "Hey, I saw that you're a Christian. Like anyone who follows me knows, like I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, and I put it on my stuff because I want people to know. I don't ever want someone to be like, oh, I didn't even know that he believed in that.
Right.
Like that's important to me as a human being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my values should be evident. And if people don't know that, then I'm like, anyway. So
are you even a Christian?
Right.
Yeah.
So she was like, oh, I saw that you are, and I'm a Christian too. And I'm like,
I went to ministry school.
And this and that. And now I didn't remember it at the time, but going back now, thinking about like the way that it came across, it was almost like she was saying it as like selling, right? She was selling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like
it wasn't like, oh, just me too. It was like, no, it was like, I'm using this to manipulate. And so guys, like the first lesson today, Christians are the worst. We're some of the best people and some of the worst, right? Because it's like when someone who says they're Christian does something bad, it's like, oh man, you're supposed to be the moral standard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But be very wary of people who leverage your, like, especially in an interview,
your beliefs,
who leverage like what you publicly make known about yourself to like build and kind of connect with you, and don't be paranoid. Like, oh, hey, you like this sports team too. Like, no, I just pay attention to the way people say things, because I realized that she basically used that as like a way to kind of grab my attention. And really it was with ill intent, right? I found out clearly. So I hire this woman, and she was probably overqualified. And I know, like, well, what is overqualified? It's like, well, like her background, I think she had a legal background, which also should have been a red flag for me. You know, like,
don't hire lawyers.
Be wary of that for sure. But she had a legal background, and just the nature of like her resume versus other assistants I'd hired was just very different. And that's why I liked it. Like it was higher level. And so I hired this woman. She worked for me for, I want to say it was like like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
8 weeks, right? Just enough time to like not be fully like onboarded and rolling, right? It's like,
But also be in the middle of everything.
but also be in the middle of everything. That's right.
Yeah.
And so, I felt like things were going good. Like we kind of started off well. I was like, okay, things are going good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were some challenges with like tech and like efficiency and some of the tools we were using that she was like overcoming. But like, I'll take someone who's, you know, older, if you want to say that, and like just mature and competent,
Mm-hmm.
and like they can learn the tools, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's certain roles where I'm like, it's probably like the learning curve's too steep, but basic tools like, you know, like smartphones and calendars and just stuff like that, like they can figure it out, and you're gonna be glad later that you have the maturity on your team. I can tell you
Yeah.
that much. So
Yeah.
that's like a little nugget in there. Like,
Yeah, we need to do a podcast.
don't write people
on
off because they're older. Like that's stupid,
Yeah.
right? Like I was in my 20s. I'm still not, like I'm 29 right now. Like I was hiring and I would look at people who were older, and just in your head you're like, oh, like, but then I realized and matured myself and realized like you need maturity in your bit. Like if you have all 20-year-olds in your company,
Which we did at one point.
yeah, which is great, but like the level of experience, they're just not old enough to have experienced that much and to be that mature. They're just not, right? And
They don't
so
have seasoning yet.
yeah, there you go. Seasoning. I like
Yeah.
that. That's good. It's like, so anyway, so we get to this point, and she no call, no showed
Mm-hmm. The first time.
No call, no showed. So
Yeah.
didn't show up to work. We had an office at this time. This wasn't remote. Like you showed up at the office, and no
Hit
call,
her
no
up.
showed.
Hit her up.
Called her, nothing. Right.
Text her.
And this is like where Kaylin's always like,
benefit of the doubt.
I'm like the worst case scenario. I'm like the person where like I put my key, like I put like what's a good example of this?
You're like Apple Pencil. So like this guy forgets where he puts everything, but as soon as he can't find something, someone stole it. It's like, oh, one of those kids stole it. I swear. So I can't find my iPad anywhere. I swear one of our kids stole it. I don't know where it is. I've been looking for it all day. And I'm like, where did you have it last? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, you took it to the meeting the other day. I bet it's in the backseat of your car. And he's like, no, one of these kids ran off. I go downstairs. I look in the backseat of the car. There's the iPad. So he's very much like, whenever something goes missing, somebody stole it, you know, or it's gone forever. And I'm like, benefit of the doubt.
The house cleaners had to have stole it.
Yeah.
And I don't like mean it, but it's like my head goes there. I don't know why. I'm like, I escalate quickly.
And I'm like the benefit of the doubt person. That's like, so when this girl no called, no showed, I was like, maybe emergency happened. Maybe she got in a car wreck. Maybe she's in the hospital right now. Like, that's where my head goes. Like, benefit of the doubt. Like, she'll show up. She'll show up at like, she'll hit you back. Something had to have happened that was like crazy. Like, don't go off the rails.
Yep.
Like, you have to realize because she has gone off the grid, like this must mean that something bad, like really bad has happened.
Yeah. And like, I think most of the time you're right.
Yeah.
I think most of the time the benefit of the doubt is definitely the way to go.
Except for this time.
Yeah. And so I think it was like later that day, she texted me and was like, hey, my son had I think it was like a school emergency or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it sounded legit. I was like, okay, it's all good. Just like, no big deal. Like it was like justified. Right. And I was like, all right, cool. And lo and behold, a week later, same exact thing happened. Right. And so this time,
second no call, no show.
Second no call. You know what? It was not a week later. It was the next day.
Oh, it was the next day.
It was the next day.
The next day.
So the next day, she's like, same thing, crickets, like just nothing. And I'm like, hey, we got appointments. Where's this? Where's that? Like, I'm like, hey, like if you bring on an assistant, you rely on them, you lean on them, right? If you're doing it right,
yep.
You know, they're running stuff for you, and they're essential to your day to day, your workflow, and so it's just absolutely crickets. And then the next day turns around, crickets, right? Nothing. So we're one day with a good valid excuse. We're next day, absolutely nothing. And then we hit the third day.
Which to be honest, if she would have been like, hey, like it was this emergency and like my kid's in the hospital and like I need the next 2 days off work or whatever to be with him, like you would have been like, okay, no problem. But at least you would have known. You know what I mean? You're not the one that's like, okay, your kid's like deathly ill or your kid's like having this really hard time or whatever, and not to be like, okay, we'll go take care of your kid and I'll see you on
Yeah.
Thursday or Friday. It's more like there was no communication at all, and it was literally just disappeared with no calls, no texts, no anything.
Yep.
Or like even just I don't mean to say like permission to do it, but just like if you needed those next 2 days, if you needed that time to deal with a thing, like you would have no problem been like, okay, deal with it.
Totally. So now we're at the end of third day. And so we got 2 days, no call, no show, no idea what's happening, nothing. So day 4, the next day, we terminated everything and we let her go. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Right.
Mhm.
Like if there's an emergency, you still have your cell phone. You know what I mean? You got to text, like you got to, like, whatever. So, and going back, we know that there was absolutely zero intent to show up. Like this was a part of the game plan, guys. This is what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
So I move on. I'm like, all right, like moving on. And I
Chalked
get,
it up to a bad hire.
yeah, chalked it up to a bad hire. Like, hey, and I'll tell you guys right now, it's a mistake to put all your eggs in a basket mentally when it comes to hiring employees.
Yeah.
What I mean is, like, you do not, like, I would say if people make it past 30 to 60 days, then you mentally go, oh, okay, like this is the one. But like, I can't tell you guys how many times I've gone through a roller coaster of like, oh,
This is the
this is
person.
the person, this and that. And then we're like 2 weeks in and I'm like,
This is not the
this is
person.
not the person. I'm like, they haven't done anything and everything's like theory and there's no execution and they're not getting it. And like, like, so I would just say, avoid this emotional roller coaster of the team by, and I don't want to say like, you don't expect the worst, but like, if you just gotta be ready for it,
Well, I
and then
think
just like hope for the best and believe in them. And like, it's weird. It's like, and we just made a really key hire in our new business yesterday, right? Like she started yesterday, and I have absolute like joyful anticipation. I'm excited. The right signs are showing, but I would not even flinch if I got an email 3 days from now, hey, I don't think this is for me. Like, because that happens, guys. Like, people, like, they think they know what they want, and sometimes maybe we misrepresent what it is, right?
I don't really think you do. I think you over
I probably overrepresent. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, in general, like maybe we misrepresent
Yeah.
what the role was. Maybe like they just didn't really know what they wanted and they needed to like jump into it for 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
and this is the hard part. Like, people are people.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think what you're trying to say here is like being sold on the person doesn't happen when you hire them. Like I would say it's more like 90 days for you than 30 to 60, but it's like you be sold on them after the 90-day mark of like it's been proven out that they're the person for the role. Like when you make the hire, not like this is the one, I'm sold on this person, like they're going to come in and fix all these things and like this is the one for the long haul. It's more like you hire the person, let them sell you over the 90 days of actually working in the business, and then you're like, okay, like this is the one. Like the trust, like you've developed the trust there. Like the trust is not developed through the hiring process. It's developed through the working in the business,
For
like
sure.
proving it out.
Yeah. Because if you're not careful, you'll be like, so like plant your flag on a hill ready to die.
Yeah.
And like they'll let you down, or you'll start making excuses for them.
Yeah.
And like that's happened to me as well. So just like side trail here of like such a like I can't tell you guys how much kind of like in my guts, like
I
I've
used
just
to wreck you.
wrenched over this because people don't meet your expectations and you get excited and you're like, oh, like I know that. Look, guys, most of the time people will solve all the problems in your business, right?
The right person.
A lot of times, like hiring the right people will help give you the bandwidth you need to take initiatives forward, to alleviate stress that you have doing certain stuff that you don't like to do. It's just like people are what can solve problems in your business and alleviate so much pressure and friction for you as the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But like it's an emotional roller coaster for sure when that kind of stuff happens. So back to Shmisha, right?
Shmisha.
Back to Shmisha. So Shmisha.
I'm sorry.
Get it together, Kaylin.
It's just so funny. Like Shmisha is something I would say, not you. So it's just
Yeah,
funny
like when we were
hearing.
prepping for this episode, I was like, let's just call her
I was like, I don't
Shmisha.
want to say her name, and Brandon goes Shmisha.
Uh,
Oh my gosh. Okay, I got it. I got it together. I think.
so we're
Oh my gosh.
literally so let her go, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, moving on. You
At this
know,
point, yeah, it was like a whole week.
like I've had a lot of assistants. I've had a few great ones over the last decade, and the last one I had was incredible. Left because she really wanted to do her own thing,
Yeah.
and
Went and started her own business.
yeah, like
Mhm.
so when people leave working for me and they go and they do something greater, like I'm always happy for them. Like that's what we want people to evolve, right? And I didn't have a place for her at the time. That was that. I think that's what we should try to do first. Anyways, so back to Shmisha.
Yeah.
So I
Shmisha.
get sidetracked, but I'm like, oh, that's such a good one. So we let her go, and I'm just like, okay, moving on. And then I get a letter, and it's from I think the acronyms are EEOC. It says EEOC. It looked very official. It was like the ugly turquoise from New Mexico,
Yeah.
like the ugly letterhead.
Mhm.
And so I open this up, and basically I begin to read what's basically where an employee goes. I think it's Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. If I might be butchering it, but it's something like that. And so basically I began to read this letter, and it was a formally filed complaint with the state that I was a racist employer, right? That I was a racist, and that I was paying other people more money because of their race, right?
Mm.
And I'm like the racist white guy, right?
Yeah, that's what you were pinned as.
Yeah, that's what I was pinned as, right? They, like insane.
Well, at
So
the same time, there's like 2 white people in our entire church.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and like there was like a great ethnic salad bowl of like people that were working for us at the
Yeah.
time. Like I don't care what you look like. I care what your results are and that you have integrity as a human being. Like I don't care like what color of the rainbow you are, the melanin of your skin. I'm like, bro, like
Yeah.
do you get results? And actually, white people are lazy sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's
I'm
so
like,
true.
there's some cultures out there that work so much harder than Americans
Mhm.
or people that their families from America.
Mhm.
And so anyway, so I began to read this letter, and it just devastated me. I'm like,
Well, because it was like really the
this
first
woman,
attack on your character as
yeah,
well.
it was like
Yeah.
this woman was in all of my stuff. She was my assistant. Now she's calling me a racist, saying that I didn't pay her fairly and that I owed her all this money for work she did after hours and that I like grinded her. And I'm like, you can't even like schedule appointments and do assistant stuff when other places are closed. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
So, and I'm just like bewildered, and it wrecked me. Like it really did. I don't know why this one did. I think we had hired maybe like 7 or 8 people at this point. And it just, the fact that I was being like, my character was being assassinated when I hold myself to, I believe to have great character, especially in this area, right? Like Albuquerque, New Mexico, like I'm a minority,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm literally a
Yeah. And
minority
it's like
in this
our
town.
best friends are like like our best friend is Mexican. Like your best friend, one of your best
Yeah.
friends is black.
Like Asian friends, black
Yeah,
friends,
yeah.
Mexican friends. I had all kinds
Yeah,
of
all
friends.
kinds
Like
of friends.
I was a minority.
Yeah, and also all kinds of employees.
And yeah, and so I'm just like, are you kidding me? And so guys, like you just got to understand that people are people, and it's just them, it's not you, right? And
Yeah.
so here's how this went down, and this is where like as a business owner, I created a bucket for this, right? And I'll tell you in a second what that is. And so I end up having to go down to the whatever office building I had to go down to. They assigned us like a mediator. And so she said, hey, you owe me all this money. It's like $12,000 or something in wages, or $5,000 in wages I didn't pay. Absolute nonsense. I had like a letter, like, here's you acknowledging exactly how the time tracking system works.
Yep.
Right? Here's all of your hours in the system. Like, here's all the pay stubs. Like, I had all the evidence. I had a stack of paperwork this big. But I still had this gut in my stomach, like, man, I got to go sit at a table with this woman who's like assassinated my character, said I'm a racist. I've got all this evidence and proof.
Yeah.
And I go and sit down, and when she got hired with me, she never intended to finish or operate in the role.
Yeah.
Like
This ended up being her track record, right? Like,
yep.
that's what you found out.
And that's what I found out later, is that her track record was this exactly, right? We go get hired somewhere, we cry wolf, and then we go to the government, and the government, unfortunately in New Mexico, is, like, I think there's probably a lot of injustice in the workplace.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
that's not cool. But this was not an injustice, right? This was like, I was being taken advantage of, right? And so I go sit down at this table and present all the evidence, bring all the facts. All she says is, here's stuff. I worked these hours and he owes me this money.
Yeah, with no proof. Like, you
No
had all
proof.
the proof.
No proof.
Like, her literal,
Nothing.
she logged her hours herself. Like,
Yes.
her hours are logged by her. And you have all this proof, and all
of
the pay stubs and all the everything, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. And I'm like, here's the other people that work for me.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, she's making more money than these other people that she claims.
Like, they came in and interviewed.
Yeah.
Like, our very first hire was an awesome guy from Mexico who was my graphic designer, who literally was with us for 6 years. And they came in and like interviewed other people, like asking them, do you feel like this is true? Like, what has happened?
Yeah. And it was, yeah. So I sit down at the table, and turns out they sided with her. It was like, okay, you owe her all this money. And it was like $12,000. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, how?
Yeah. Can
like,
you
what
do the
evidence?
math for me?
Yeah. I'm like, but they didn't care. Right. Yeah. So there's this bucket that I have, and it's called the cost of doing business bucket. Right.
Yeah.
It's the cost of doing business bucket. And so when things happen that, there's a lot of mistakes that you make. And the mistake I made, right, was ultimately when there's a few things I'll get into, but sometimes, like, you just don't know what you don't know. And that's why you listen to a show like this, right? Yeah. And so next time when an employee assassinates your character or you're betrayed, right? And just know that there's a bucket, and it's the cost of doing business bucket. Yep. Right. And you just take it and you drop it in the cost of doing business bucket, and just understand that as an entrepreneur, stuff is going to fly your way. It's going to just be a cost of doing business. And that's where you got to throw it in that bucket, because, like, it sucks. It's not fair. It's not right. It's not just, but, like, you can either be the victim or you can figure it out later. Right.
Yeah.
And so ultimately what happened is I realized that in the interview, like, and I was like, God, what happened? Like, searching my brain, like, what did I do wrong?
What part of the process?
Yeah. Like, what broke down? How did I not see this coming? Right. And I think it was like somebody with a legal background, right?
Yeah.
Was applying to be an assistant, right? Knew that she was going to get into all my stuff, was going to be able to see it all, right? Had a legal background, understood, hey, I can, like, here's how the process works with the state, right? Like, it was just like weird. Like, why would an assistant, like someone applying to be executive assistant, have a legal background, right? It's like, it just didn't make sense.
Yep.
And then you add on.
Should have been a red flag.
Should have been a red flag. And then you add on this whole like, oh, I'm a Christian too. And, like, just pouring into that. Like, it wasn't just like a quick mention. It was like a whole thing during the interview. Yeah. And that should have been a red flag. So when someone uses what they know about you to, like, build this rapport and, like, really focuses on that in an interview, like, be wary of that, be cautious of that. Like, what's the real angle here? Right. And so I think those were, like, that was the key thing I took away. And the other thing I did was I got some freaking rhino skin. Right.
Yeah.
Because it wrecked me. It was like an entire week. I couldn't be productive. I was just like, what happened? How
it went on and on.
I'm not this person.
Before, like,
yeah. And then they're
hearings and, like,
they're interviewing people. They're setting the date. I got to go down there. I got to see her. I'm just like, oh my gosh. So that one was.
And she didn't even look at you the whole time.
Oh yeah. She couldn't even make eye contact.
Yeah.
She couldn't even make eye contact.
Yeah, and then to find out, it's like your lawyer tells you, like, yeah, she's been involved in, like, other lawsuits like this before.
Yeah, she's done it before. So lo and behold, there you go. So that was a good one. That was a one that taught me a lot emotionally on just how to manage that, and just, like, this is the bucket of the cost of doing business, right?
Yeah.
So here's another one. Ready for this one?
No, I'm not ready. I don't think, like, literally, you guys, if that was an emotional roller coaster for you, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And some of you guys might be going through something like that, or you have. And I love, like, the bucket of cost of doing business. So what else can we put in that bucket for you, Brandon? Cost of doing business.
That's going to take a like a lot longer than the time we have here.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hired someone, let's call her Schmeverly. Okay?
Schmeverly. Oh yeah, Schmeverly.
We got Schmeverly.
Schmeverly.
Yeah, we got Schmeverly.
She was a Schmeverly for sure.
And hired her for a writing role, right?
Yeah.
Like to write a copyright.
Yeah, she'd basically take my videos and transcribe them before we knew what
Yeah, I don't remember like all the details.
transcription website was.
Yeah, this was like so long ago.
But this is in the very beginning. Like we had just literally gotten the office. This is like legit when we first decided to go from laptop lifestyle, like on the beach in Puerto Rico, and got the office. She was like maybe the third hire.
Yeah, it was like the third one. And it was really interesting because the culture just wasn't there. That's what I realized with Schmeverly, right? Like when I look back, I'm like, we just like had nothing in common. There was no like cultural alignment, just nothing, right? I was just like, hey, like you have the resume, you've been a writer for a long time, like, but what I didn't really put together though was that the type of writing, right? And this is just like the nuance, right? And I've learned this about recruiting is like, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for a unicorn. What's the unicorn? Somebody who in a company just like yours just completed the next 3 years, 5 years that you're about to go through. Right? That's good. So like, you want to hire a writer. It's like, well, hire someone who's been writing for so let's say you have an e-commerce pet store, right? Yeah. Hire someone who's been writing for an e-commerce pet store that just finished growing it on the growth trajectory that you want to be on in the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's the unicorn.
That's like the unicorn, right? And so relevant experience, not just experience, but relevant experience and recency is important as well. Like how long ago was this experience, right? Because industries mature and they shift so fast, right? So I learned really, really quickly with this one that like her writing experience was strong and like deep, but it was in more like novel fiction, more like longer form versus the shorter form type of digital stuff that we were doing, right? So while she had like the right resume and like had the experience years, the experience was not relevant, right? And so her work output,
audience was not relevant,
right? And the audience, there you go as well. That's a good one for sure. She just like, and so we come around to it, didn't do anything crazy, but just the work product wasn't there. We had a meeting, we have performance improvement plan meetings, right? Hey, we got to adjust this. We got to fix this, and did that. And the work product wasn't what we needed. I was just like, hey, this isn't working out. This isn't the type of work that we need. We got to let you go, right? It's like, we had this meeting. You understand how we needed X, Y, Z. Yeah. Okay. So you understand why I have to let you go, right? It's like, if you've done your job, people should never be surprised when they're let go. Like, look, layoffs happen and that's just a surprise sometimes. Like there's no way to avoid that as a business owner, but on a one-on-one basis, people should not be surprised that they're being let go. Like, I think that's a mistake, right? You got to give them an opportunity to fix it. And then you just simply say, like, if you give them an opportunity to fix it and then they don't meet the standard, then you say, hey, we had that meeting and you need to do X, Y, Z. Well, it's not happening. And so you understand why I have to let you go, right?
Yeah.
And like, that's it. That's it, right? So I had this conversation with her, let her go.
Well, before you let her go, though, there was the thing with the fluorescent lights in the office.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the fluorescent lights. So, we're in a really nice office building, like great office building, great views, great bathrooms, like brand new building. It's gorgeous. Like, it's amazing. Like, I was like shocked that we got like this office space. And it was beautiful and amazing, and everyone loved it. And the thing with Schmeverly was, after she first got hired, she was like, the fluorescent lights in here, give me a headache, whatever. And we're like, okay. I mean, so she would constantly like turning the lights off in the office, and everyone would be.
I remember walking in, and I was like, "Why are the lights off?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "What is this, like nap time?"
Day. And yeah, we have other employees in there, and she would turn the lights off on everybody.
Nap time?
In the office, and I mean, there's probably like. It wasn't a huge office. It was a very small space. There's probably like
4,000 square feet.
Yeah, 1,000 square feet, like 4 actual, things in there. And so the lights would always be off. And then we're just like, listen, you can't keep turning the lights off on everyone. you know, like people are trying to work. This is a workspace, right? And then came to Brandon and was like, hey, I'm going to need you to buy me, like, you need to buy me these special set of glasses for me to work.
They were like $500.
Yeah, they're like $500
Yeah, I
glasses
remember
that
this.
she wanted you to buy her with her prescription in
Yeah,
them for
because
her to be able to
because we
work.
had fluorescent lights in an office building.
Yeah,
Like, I don't even know what office building doesn't have fluorescent lights.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
honestly, I'm like, okay, guys, what office buildings have like dim yellow light? Like, none of them.
yeah,
And I'm just like, hey, like, I totally like don't want you to have problems, but like we have an office, we need the lights on. It's not like now I can't have a nap time atmosphere in my office.
yeah.
Like, we got work
This
to
is like
do.
dark in there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I'm like, if you're in here by yourself, turn the lights off. It's cool. Right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but if other people are here, which is every day, it's like you got to turn the lights on, and like, I can't buy your $500 glasses because this is like standard issue, you know?
yeah,
Like, and like, maybe if it was like, hey, we're a year down the road and you're like, you've done a great job, and I'm like, we've got rapport and trust, and like,
mhm,
and you're like, come to me with something like that. I think it's a little different than like coming out of the gate like week 2.
yeah,
And so I think I totally forgot about that. And I think she resented me because of this.
yeah,
Right.
mhm.
And so whether that had something to do with the work product or not, I have no idea.
Yeah,
Right.
and even after the whole conversation about keeping the lights on and everything, like we'd roll up to the office, or I'd roll up to the office. You would be in your office, and you'd usually be there before me. But I'd roll in, and then the lights would be off, and I'd like turn them back on, and then you come back out at lunchtime, they'd be off again. Like even after all these conversations, and
like,
everyone else in the
we're all
office is like,
children.
"What is happening? Like, why? What is this like fight
Yeah.
over the lights on and off?" You know?
Yep. So we let Schmeverly go.
Yeah.
And
Later down the road, it was probably like what? She worked for us for probably like 2 months, 3 months.
yeah, it was like 2,
It
3
was a
months.
while. Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you guys. It's the first 90 days. It's like if everything goes well past that, then be like, oh, all right, we got them. You know what I
Yep.
mean? They're the right
Yeah.
person, because weird stuff
Yeah, it might be the
happens.
fluorescent lights.
Totally. Gosh, don't have fluorescent lights in your office building,
Gosh.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
So
I think we even took a vote. I think we took a vote in the office.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. Of who wanted the lights to be on and who wanted them to be off. Like that's how bad it got. Because it was like, well, if everyone feels, she's like everybody, and we're like, well, if everyone feels this way, we'll just take a vote.
we did take a
We
vote.
did. We took a vote.
And they wanted them on.
Yes. Yeah. And that's how we got to
Right?
it. Yeah. Because we were like, well, if everyone, she's like everyone, right? And so Brandon is always like, well, if you're going to say everyone, it better be everyone. Like that better be a fact, and you better be able to back that
I
up.
fact
And he's
checked
like,
her.
well, yeah, we'll take a vote. And if the rest of the employees want the lights on, then we're going to have the
Yeah.
lights on.
I thought that was a very like
Yeah.
equitable way to handle that.
Yeah, that is exactly the way that it happened. Like
You
now
know?
that I'm recalling, yeah, and everyone was like, we want the freaking lights on so we can see to work. Like,
Yeah.
can't see my stuff,
Yeah.
can't see my keyboard, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my,
gosh.
that's
We
amazing.
took a vote.
So lo and behold, time goes on. I get a letter,
Yep.
another letter. Hey, whenever a government entity hits you up, it's always a letter.
Yeah.
So just know that. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're not calling
So
you.
just don't check your mail.
Yeah. No, you should check your mail. Don't check your mail. Yeah, that was the solution. Oh my god.
Oh.
This is why I run the operations, guys.
Exactly. I'd be like, hey, if I don't check my mail, I don't know.
Yeah. If I don't look at my email, I never got anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Ignorance is bliss.
Oh my gosh.
So I get a letter from OSHA,
OSHA.
right? And like OSHA is the entity that like, I mean, you guys probably know what OSHA is, right? It's like their job is to make sure
The workplace.
the workplace is safe and
Mhm.
friendly. And like most people that deal with OSHA are like people that build houses and do manufacturing and have dangerous stuff going on in the
Right.
workplace.
Or like
Right.
a warehouse that's 90 degrees that
Yeah,
people are
like-
working in for 8 hours.
Yeah. And I think like, do I love government entities? No. Do I think regulation is necessary in some ways? Yes.
Mhm.
Right. But so I get a letter from OSHA saying that they had a complaint that we had a hazardous work environment. I'm like,
I'm sorry. Oh, like it's the most. If you guys would see the office, it was like the most gorgeous office too. Like even a kitchen.
yeah, like it was like
beautiful.
it was a brand new brick
brand
building.
new.
And in Albuquerque, it was like
In
the
Al-
It was probably the nicest looking office building
In
in the
Albuquerque.
city.
Yeah.
Probably pretty
Yes.
close. Like
Yeah.
like top 10.
Yes.
Top 10, like
Yes.
brand new building, like
Yeah.
beautiful elevator, like it was nice, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh
There's
my
even
gosh, you
parking
guys.
garage.
There's a brand new parking garage.
Yeah.
So like
Gorgeous views of the mountain.
People haven't driven around like Metro Albuquerque and really get it's like it's old,
Yeah.
right? It's just not. It's not
And
a
everything's
new,
like Southwestern Pueblo style.
Everything's
Like
rusty and
everything
old.
looks sunburnt.
Yeah, it looks sunburnt. She's always said that. Everything looks sunburnt.
Everything's sunburnt.
And I love it. It's like my hometown, right? It's where I grew up.
Sorry, I'll stop talking
But
crap.
no, it's okay. It's a little sunburned. That's right. That's right. That's what happens. That's why I get sunburned easily, you know? Like right now, look at this. I got like a superhero. If you guys see on the video, look at this. We went to a PGA Tour game in Austin, and
Tournament,
I'm like,
match.
I got like a V sunburn. Anyway.
So everything looks like that, basically.
Yeah. And our office was beautiful. So I'm looking at this letter from OSHA, like, what is happening? Right.
Hazardous work
So they
environment.
show up, right? The guy shows up.
And they show up like unannounced, right?
Yeah.
Like they just roll up to the office.
The guy shows up unannounced.
Because they like to catch you off guard.
Yeah. Freaking OSHA. I'm like, I have an internet company and I have OSHA called on me.
So the claims were the fluorescent lighting, and then it was like there was ceiling tile work because we had just moved to this office before, and I think they were running better internet for us or something like that, but they were working on the ceiling, so there was exposed wires while they had like the ceiling tiles removed, and then something about like fire extinguishers or something, right?
Yeah, it was just absolute nonsense. Like, so OSHA shows up and this guy comes in and I'm like, he's like, hey, but I'm like, hey,
with
man,
his
what's
portfolio.
going on? Yeah, he's got his little clipboard. And I'm just like, hey, man, what's going on? And he's like, hey, I'm with OSHA. We had a complaint. You guys had exposed wiring, that it was hazardous. Something's going on. Like your lighting isn't safe. And I'm just like, well, it's all yours, man. Look around. So I go sit at my desk and I'm just almost laughing to myself. I'm like, this is such a joke. Like, I'm not stressed at all about this one. This one, I'm like, no. I'm like totally fine. I'm just like, that woman called OSHA on me. I'm like, this one was like a badge of honor for me. Because I'm like, I did everything to like acquiesce to what she wanted. We took a vote. Like, it was ridiculous.
We took a vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, yeah, I mean, how else do you handle that? So anyway, so he comes in my office and he's like, all right, man. He's like, I don't see anything here. And you can tell he gave me the look like, this is the stupidest call I've ever taken. Like, he looked at me like, I have no idea why I'm here. And I was like, yeah, man, is there anything I can do? I just, I want to be compliant. He's like, I don't see anything here, man. He's like, yeah, you have a great day.
Schmeverly.
Yeah. And then he left and I'm just like,
but it was scary. Like OSHA just shows up and then we're just like totally caught off guard. And we're just like,
yeah,
like, oh, like this for real. Like just shows up out of the blue, out of nowhere.
Yeah. And I don't even think I knew what OSHA was.
No. We were just like, we got this letter.
I didn't even know what OSHA was.
We're like being served.
Yeah. Like I'm like 23, 24.
Yeah.
I didn't know what OSHA was.
Yeah.
I have an internet business, like I know what like the internet is. I know what like Facebook is. And so that one was fun, but it wasn't as bad. Right. And so the mistake was that the relevancy of experience. That's what it was, right? It was a culture fit and a relevancy of experience. Like I had absolutely nothing in common. Mm-hmm. And I don't think like you need to have like, how do I explain this? I don't think you need to be like buddy or have the same hobbies or be the same age. Yeah. But when like just in communication, it's just not there.
Yeah.
With people, there's just like such a gap. And like, it's not always like evident what it is. It's just like, there's just
like no
nothing.
Bridge of communication. Yeah. It's almost like she was like on an island, even with the rest of the employees. Like she wasn't a culture fit with any other of the employees, and she was basically like on her own island and like didn't talk to anyone. Yeah, like never left her desk. Like had this whole like disgruntledness amongst the other employees, like turning the lights off and like all this stuff. And there was just nothing in common. And she was like this one employee that was over here on this island while everyone else was like excited about what we were doing. There was like, she had zero excitement about what we were doing. She had zero like buy-in on the mission, like none of it. Like it's like, I'm just show up and write these things and then like, turn the lights off and get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a great example of culture. Like, and then just that relevancy of experience, right? It didn't equate. So Schmeverly didn't work out, but we learned something from that mistake, right? We learned something from that mistake. So, um,
What else goes in the bucket of cost of doing business? I think this is where can we talk about the eggplant
oh
pic
yeah, the
now?
eggplant pick.
Yeah, let's
All
talk about
right.
the
Yeah,
eggplant.
I think we could do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, it's just like another work day. So I thought,
This is why I don't check my email.
I get an email. I get an email from my HR director, right?
Oh
And this
my
is fast
gosh.
forward a few years, right?
Doesn't she call you first to warn you though? Like when you open this email? Yeah, she did.
She did call me.
She called you to warn
I
you
love
because
how great your memory is. I'm like, there's so much, you know?
she
Yeah,
called you to warn you so when you didn't open this email and be like,
she's
eggplant.
like, hey, she did call me. She was like, she's like, hey, I just sent you an email.
No, she called you didn't answer. And you're like, something busy. And she's like, this is the 911. Yeah.
You guys I love how Kaylin remembers this because I don't know if you guys are like me, if there's any guys out there listening, how like you go to a restaurant and you're like, honey, do I like this food?
What do I like
I'm
here?
like, she's like the 5 gigabyte storage
I think I'm a
drive.
terabyte for you though.
Yeah, you're like a terabyte for me. I'm like, she's like where I store my memories and then I just ask her because I don't remember. It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
like we'll go to a restaurant 5 times and every time we go, I'm like, what do I
What
eat
did
here?
we get here last time?
What do I
Oh
eat
my
here?
gosh, Brandon, we've been to this restaurant 20 times. You get the same thing every time.
You're like, do I like couscous?
Am I allowed to have couscous?
Yeah, now it's like she has my food plan and
Yeah.
I'm like, am I allowed to have this?
I'm like, no.
And she knows. She knows.
So she called you and you didn't answer. And then she hit you up and was like, this is 911. Like, I need to talk to you about this right now. And so you called her back.
Yeah. And I think I read the email before I talked to her.
Mm.
So I'm sitting there and I look at this email and I open it up and there's some words. Then there's like a picture and I scroll down and it's literally
In your face.
an eggplant in my face. Right. And I was like, huh, this is new. So at this point, I'm kind of seasoned though. Cause
Yeah.
like we're at this point, we're probably like 100 employees, 120. You know, we've got our office in New Mexico, right? Our 11,000 square foot headquarters, right? And then we also have our sales phone team office in California, in San Diego, on Pacific Beach. Amazing.
Yeah,
office.
they literally walk out of lunch
like
onto the
walk
beach.
out to the beach,
like it's amazing.
50 yards, right?
Yeah.
If that, probably like 20 yards. And it's just like, so we got these two offices going on, and I'm a little bit more seasoned, right? I've dealt with a lot of Shmishas and a lot of Schmeverlies at this point, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay,
what's this guy's name? Schmevin?
I don't remember his name.
I think it's Schmevin.
Okay, it's Schmevin. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
That could be it. That could not be it. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll call him Schmevin, right?
Schmevin.
So I get to see I intimately get to see Schmevin, right, in my email. I'm like, I got more than I bargained for this morning. I'm like looking at this eggplant. I don't know why I keep wanting to say okra, but that would be really weird. Let's not go there. Like
eggplant.
All
like
right.
the eggplant emoji.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Like that little emoji. That's what I'm picturing in my head, not what I actually saw, right? And so I'm like, okay, wow. So turns out I look at this email and I see the eggplant, and it turns out that there was two people at our phone team office, right? And you know, they're all in the same place. They're like a lot of younger, like a lot of energy. They're all in Pacific Beach, just moved to California type of vibe, right? Like that was the vibe of the office. It was a younger crowd, a lot of energy. It was cool. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Amazingly fun environment. And it was great for selling, right? Great for selling. But in that kind of chaos is a lot of this kind of stuff would happen, right? And so there was one employee, so Schmevin, right? And he's flirting with
Schmitney.
Schmitney. Okay. So Schmevin's flirting with Schmitney, and Schmevin is like, he's like trying to instigate, what did you call her? Schmitney? I'm like, I can't even keep a straight face doing this now. I'm like, what are we doing? So Schmitney's over here. I feel like you just said that just to get me to say it. I think you did. Because now I have to say them both. So Schmitney comes in and she's kind of asking for it. Like she's flirting and she comes in at like a level 3.
Yeah.
right?
Like, yeah,
Like a
yeah.
3 or
Like,
4, like,
yeah.
like,
Like she was totally into it. Like, I'm
yeah,
into it. Like, I'm into you.
yeah,
Like, yeah, let's
yeah,
whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, totally flirting back. This was
yeah,
not like out of, I mean, I don't think there's any excuse to like just straight up send the eggplant. Like, it
yeah.
happened too quick. But, you
Wait, wait,
know,
wait, wait.
they were
So,
flirting.
so she was asking for it, right? Like she came level 3 or 4, but Schmevin, he just swung the bat and he came in at a level 12, right? I'm like, homie just went for it, right? So he sends
Yeah.
this picture,
This-
like she did not ask for that picture.
no.
Like she asked for
She was like asking for like a date and like,
like a
let's go out.
like a
Or
cute,
like,
like maybe an emoji, like a cute little flirting emoji is all
yeah.
that she was asking for. And
Yeah.
she got more than she bargained for. Oh my gosh. And so basically this happened. I read this whole thing. I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, here we go. Right. What is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
This is now the question that goes through my head.
Yeah.
I'm
How
like,
much is going in the bucket now?
right. And so the only reason it came across from the HR director was because she said that she was going to get a lawyer if we did not fire him.
Yeah.
Right. And so
Mhm.
she basically was like, and I need to be careful about how much I say here.
Yeah.
But it was basically like we couldn't acquiesce to exactly what she was asking for because it was unreasonable. And we launched an investigation. We did the whole dance. We did what we needed to do
With all the lawyers.
but it was like, and so, but it was just like so anyway, that's what she asked. And I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. Like we need to get more facts before we just fire somebody.
Yeah.
Right. Like we need to,
Because we got to protect ourselves on the other side of we can't just.
yeah, we can't just fire people for no reason. Right. And so we ended up getting counsel. So I'm sitting on with these
Well, the
lawyers.
eggplant pick was after hours too, right?
I don't remember. And so I end up sitting on with lawyers and I'm like, all right. And so luckily I know great lawyers, right? So I'm sitting on and they're like, yeah, we're the guys here in California because we're in California. And by the way, don't have employees in California. Just don't. Save yourself the headache. Just don't have employees in California. I'm not even kidding. New York, California, some of the worst they're employer friendly, but it's more like extortion friendly.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to say employer friendly sounds like I'm anti-employer friendly. I'm not. I'm like, there's injustice. Like if people don't get paid what they're owed,
yeah,
or they're like, people are, terrible to them and their employees. Like I know I've seen some entrepreneurs that treat their employees bad and I'm like, I feel so bad for them. But like employer friendly is not the right word. It's employer extortion, right?
Yeah.
That's what it really is. So I'm on with these lawyers and they're like, yeah, basically we're the ones when the basketball player in the NBA, like there's a woman who cries, wolf, and there's like allegations. This is the legal team that deals with these high profile cases.
Mm-hmm.
So I had great lawyers, right? And I'm like, okay, you're going to be really expensive, but like usually in types of situations like this, you don't want to be underrepresented.
Right.
Right.
And we hadn't been in this type of specific situation before.
And I'm like, okay. And so they're like, look, you do not want to have this woman in front of any courtroom or judge or anything talking about this. And like, you've got somebody sending themselves, they met through there. And I'm just like, so what? Like my brain goes, they're using their own cell phones. Like,
yeah, it wasn't on the work computer.
I'm like, they're just people. And guys, it's like, it doesn't matter. It sucks. Like this one, and I'll tell you with this one, the only actual thing at the end of this, right, that I could have done was sexual harassment training. And so we implemented that afterwards. And then I asked these lawyers, I say, so if I have them sign a release that they will not sexually harass anyone.
Which was already in the handbook, like sexual harassment
already
in the handbook.
They already had that.
Already in the onboarding.
Right, which you should have that. Like if you don't have that, it's not going to help you, right?
Yep.
And so I already have them signing the releases. I already have a conduct policy. I just didn't have the training. And then I was like, okay, so if I have all these things, then will this happen again? And they're like, unfortunately in California, it's like this kind of stuff, it happens all the time. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to pay a multiple, let's call it like probably $30,000 settlement Like all in all, how much this whole ordeal cost me with legal fees and everything, 30 grand
for an eggplant pic.
I paid $30,000.
For someone else to
Yeah.
send. It wasn't even your eggplant pic.
Yeah. And I'll tell you guys this, like, just so you know, like, she didn't see much of that money, if anything, right? The lawyers get everything. I'm telling you right now. So if you're an employee and you're in California,
Yeah.
I'm like, the lawyers are making all the money. You're not.
Yeah.
Like, you might get something, like a small something, but you're going to have to go through the rigmarole. It's going to take forever.
Yeah.
Like,
Then it's going to discredit your employee, like your future as an employee at a great company.
Exactly. And I'm like, now like, what do I say when someone has a reference call and says, hey, how did this person do? And I'm like, they instigated, and like, they didn't ask for it. They didn't deserve it. Right. And so we ended up removing the guy. Right.
Yeah.
And we let him go. It was like, hey, this violated the conduct policy.
Yep.
Schmevin's got to go.
Yep.
And Schmitney still went through with it.
Yep.
And that's the sad thing. And that's where you're like, man, I feel betrayed. I'm like, I gave you an opportunity, a job. I upheld my end of the bargain.
Yep.
I'm like,
Some guy did something that was
were
wrong.
flirting with a guy, and he obviously came in at a 12. Like, whoa, bro.
Which wasn't okay.
But like, that could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. Like, I can't control that.
Yeah, that could happen on airdrop on an airplane.
Yeah, like I paid her checks.
Yeah.
I'm like, I upheld my end.
And then we got rid of Schmevin, which is exactly what she wanted.
Yep.
And
still went through with it.
Yeah, still went through with the
legal.
Yeah, because people get dollar sign in their eyes and they're like,
yeah. And so there's a law that I teach in our program at Enterprise CEO, and I go in depth in like all the strategies behind this. But like, it's called the law of the target. It's like, the bigger you are, the bigger the target gets.
Yep.
Right.
The bigger the business gets.
Like, there's plaintiffs' attorneys, there's government agencies, there's disgruntled employees, and there's insurances that you can have. There's strategies to avoid and protect and to build a moat around this castle, right? As entrepreneurs, we spend so much time building our castle, but you've got to build a moat around these things, right? And so when you have insurance, it doesn't hurt as bad.
Yeah.
When you have the right insurance, right? And when you have the right documents in place, like, things they don't hurt as bad. And so this is another one. I was like, man, all right, drop it in the cost of doing business bucket, because where else am I going to put this? And it was like, and so I think the worst part of this whole thing was that at the end, I think I said this kind of, but like, asking the lawyers, I was like, all right, so if I do all these things, can this still happen? And they're like, yes. And I'm just like, so there's nothing I could do to prevent this? And they're like, no. And so
then what did you do? Like, in your head when they told you
I
no?
pulled my hair out. I'm like, I want to have control. I want it, like, tell me what to do and I'll change it. I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
Like, that's the mindset that you need to have always when this stuff happens.
Yeah.
So we did everything. We instituted training, and really, like, the answer, guys, the mistake was having employees in California. I'm not kidding. Like, that's literally the mistake. Like, understand that every time you hire an employee in a new state, you take on Nexus there, right? Which is just a fancy word for, like, you now have to pay state sales tax on certain types of products. So understand that when you like build a remote team, like, these are things you need to think about, because if you hire someone in another state, you create Nexus, you got to file in that state. The rules and regulations of that state now apply to your business through your employees. And like, that's what you're introducing yourself to, right? There's administrative cost, there's legal liability, and just California is absolute disaster when it comes to this stuff. Like, I'm telling you guys, this isn't the only story, and we're running out of time here, but like, just don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, just don't. Like, I don't know. Like, the big business mistake was that. I'm like, so I want you to hear the story, because I want you to know that stuff's going to come your way. It's not going to make sense. Sometimes you're not even going to have control over it. It's just something you didn't know that you didn't know. And that's why it's important that you're connected and you're working with somebody who knows things that you don't, so you can avoid some of these things. Because a lot of them, you just can't, you just don't know what you don't know. Right. And that's why it's great to have a mentor. It's great to be in mastermind groups. It's great to be connected with people and information. Like, if you want to go somewhere, find someone who's been where you want to go and help them. Like, they have a map to get there because they've been there. Like, don't go on a journey without a map. Right. So that's man, I didn't think it would take this long to go through those 3 stories. But I'm like, they were intense.
They were emotionally intense too.
What were you thinking like during like these like what like
I just pretend it's not happening.
really?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, like I'm the one that has to get on camera every day, right? I'm the one that has to go
Yeah.
like sell, and I'm the one that has to like I'm like the face to the community. I'm like, with all the customers, and I feel like when these things would happen, it would take a lot out of me because it's like, oh, all this crap is like happening in the background, like all this stuff, but
Yeah.
I can't like I have to kind of like not save face, but like I have to be able to present myself in a way that where I'm confident in what we're doing. And so each time like one of these things would be happening, like it would take a lot out of me to be like, oh man, it feels like the sky is falling. So it was always good that you could take those things and like deal with them and really didn't involve me much. Like I knew the things were happening and going on, but I wasn't like in the conversations. I wasn't having to like deal with it. Like you would come to me and kind of, here's what's happening, here's what's going on, here's where it's at. But I didn't have to like emotionally take on all of that because I
Yeah.
have to show up on video the next day. I have to show up to make ads the next day. I have to show up on lives the next day and like launch the next product or do the
Yeah.
thing. And so I think it was good just having like those roles that you kind of dealt with all of that. Even though I was there to listen and hear from you and kind of let you like talk at me on ideas you had about it and like what was going on, but I didn't have to get like emotionally involved in it to where it affected me doing my work, because we did have like that line between us on what our roles were.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, and that's like where especially like anything bad, like bad news bears, negative
Yeah.
stuff like this would happen.
Yeah.
Like I know that as the CEO, it was my role
Mhm.
and it is my role to shield the team or to protect them from the things that can hurt their momentum, to hurt their image of the company. And it's like it's a need to know basis type of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like this
Well, how
stuff.
did you communicate it like to the team? Like, because everybody knew it was going on, like especially in the phone team, like everybody knew it had happened, right? Like everybody had known it had gone
Yeah, I
on.
mean, we sent out a notice like just saying, "Hey, any kind of conduct in this, like we didn't say this happened. We
We
didn't
didn't
say
say
that.
eggplant
No,
pictures.
like we didn't do that. Like we sent out a notice. We let everybody know like, hey, we like um any like sexual misconduct or harassment is not tolerated. And we just reiterated the policy we already had.
Mhm.
And that's it. Nothing else, because stuff like this is so sensitive. Like I'm only talking about it because it's years later and I'm disconnected from these people now. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's no harm in it. And I've changed names. So it's like, it's very sensitive stuff. And when you're dealing with this, like the less people that know, the better.
Mhm.
And really, it was just like me, the HR director, their immediate supervisor, and the lawyers that knew anything.
Mhm.
And so it's better. Like, there's just no reason it's just a distraction,
Yeah.
right? Like, people love the drama,
Yeah.
right? Like, you probably enjoyed listening to the story because it's drama.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
lot
that's
of
why we're telling
drama.
it. I'm like, people love the drama. They love the drama. Like, everyone wants, like, that's part of like, hey, big business mistakes. We want to hear the drama
Yeah.
because, like, it's compelling.
Mhm.
It's interesting to listen to.
Yeah, but how
But
do
in
you
your
like
business,
how do you like shield the team
yeah. Well, I mean,
from the drama?
you just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You don't give it any air. You don't
Yeah.
give it any wings, any
Mhm.
oxygen to breathe.
Yep.
Right? Like
Mhm.
it's just a distraction. Right? So like I was never going on and like talking about drama.
Yeah,
I
like, you
like
never came
I'm
to a
not like
weekly
on
meeting and, like, told the
no.
whole team what happened, like,
Never.
"Okay,
No,
guys,
no,
we just
no.
had this happen.
No.
Here's, like, what's going on."
No.
Like, I think a lot of,
No, I'll
s
reiterate a policy and say
yeah,
I won't like I'll say here's what I'm telling you guys. I'm not telling you why I'm telling you it.
yeah. Totally. Well,
Like
and I think a lot of CEOs do that. They're like, "Hey, like, here's what's happened. Like, here's what we're dealing with. Like, blah blah." And it's like, are you giving these types of things in your business like wings in air? Because you think like everyone needs to know what's happening or going on, when really it's like everyone's going to be talking about in their own space or time, like of what they know. But are you like bringing it up and like giving it light and
yeah,
giving it
I
space?
think there's kind of like a dance and balance to this
Yeah.
too, because there can certainly be an elephant in the room, maybe within a specific team
Or
or
an eggplant in the room. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Oh my gosh. So like there could be an eggplant in the room.
Oh my gosh.
That was a good one.
Thanks.
That was a great one, honey. That was a good one. Oh man. See that she's got to be here, otherwise I'll just get too serious the whole time.
Yeah.
So like,
I'm just here for comedic relief.
yeah, exactly. I need it. It's for my soul. I think we all need it. But like, yeah, if there's an elephant in the room, you got to deal with some things.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't have to be in like granular detail of what's
no.
happened. It's just like,
no.
okay, guys, let me remind you today.
Here's what I think. I think it's a matter of distraction.
Mhm.
So here's your gauge. Like, should I talk to the team about this? I'd be like, will it distract them? Right?
Yeah.
Will
And
it be hold on.
Oh,
will
sorry.
it distract them?
Mhm.
Right? Will it distract them? If it will distract them, I'm not talking about it. Now, if they're already distracted
By talking about it,
because there's an elephant in the room,
eggplant.
not an elephant in the room, then I'm like, okay, there's already a distraction. We need to deal with it and squash it.
Yep.
That's how you differentiate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
And without getting into like all the granular detail of like the step by step of
Of
what's
course.
happened, it's just like say what you need to say and be done.
Yeah, never use names. Never, like, you always got to allow people to save face. You never want to embarrass anybody.
Yeah.
Like, that's never the way to handle it, right? Like, deal with the hard stuff and the bad stuff behind closed doors with the least amount of people as possible with the groups that are involved, and that's it. I'm like, that's conflict management.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't take a course on it, but I've done it enough times to know, like, and people will come to me and be like, hey, did you know so-and-so did this? I'm like, did you talk to him?
Yeah.
Why are you coming to me?
Mhm.
Like, your job as the CEO is not to run around and solve everybody's problems when they bring them to you. Like, you're like, did you talk to them yourself? Right? No. I'm like, okay, well, like, you want me to give you some thoughts, or do you feel like you confident in talking to them? And if they're like, yeah, well, like how should I talk to them? And then I'll give them a few thoughts,
Mhm.
right? Like, I'll help guide them. But like, that whole people running around, you just get lost in nonsense doing that, right?
Yeah.
You get lost in drama and so I've never had a problem with that because I can't stand it. But I'm sure there's people out there, like, it's magnetic in a way, but I wouldn't waste a breath
I honestly
distracting people
think
with it.
I think it bothered people how much you didn't care about like the drama they'd bring to you, you know?
Yeah.
Like they would literally bring
I'm
drama
okay
and be
with
like,
that.
did you know that like someone is saying this or this is happening in this team or like blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, like, are you dealing with it? Like get those two people together and like have a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
Like, have you dealt with them in that tripod of the whatever's happening? You know what I mean? And like you would not even like ask for details of what was happening, what was going on. You would just be like, okay, have you dealt with it? Have you made them talk to each other?
Yeah.
Like, have you dealt with it?
And
You know?
that's all you
Like,
got to do.
you totally stayed so hands off and like all
Yeah.
that stuff, you know?
I did. Well, and so when it escalated, like, I would let things, and you have to do this as a leader. Like, you have to, like, people need to be able to like sort their own stuff out.
Yeah.
Right. It's healthy. Like,
Yep.
if they can overcome it, it will make them stronger. But if you go in and fix everything,
Mhm.
like, giving them some thoughts is different, right? If people are struggling, but if you just go in and fix everything, it's like, they didn't even have to, that was like, daddy had to come in and fix everything.
Mm.
Right. It's not like we're all adults here.
Well, then everyone's leaning on you
Get
for
on a
every
call.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you create a crutch with it.
Mhm.
And so, like, a great operations manager or HR generalist or director, or just somebody that you have, like, you should identify, if you have not done this, who's the like peacemaker, right? Not the peacekeeper, like the peacemaker,
Mhm.
right? Who's the peacemaker that can come in and make peace in situations?
Isn't it like an Enneagram 7?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the peacemaker.
Is it
A 7
so who's the peacemaker in
or
your
a
team?
1? I don't know. Never mind. I don't know.
So, like, who's the peacemaker in your team
Yeah.
that can like help come into a situation and like help people reconcile, right?
Maybe it's a 1.
And like, whoever has them, like, yeah, I don't know which Enneagram it is.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
A 9.
It's not me. Whatever mine is,
No.
it's not me.
No, we're 8s.
I can solve
We're
conflict.
both 8s.
I can solve conflict, but there's people who are way more empathetic than I am.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes it takes a directness, right?
Mhm.
It's like, I really don't want to hear you out for 30 minutes, but like, it depends on the person, like, you just kind of gauge that.
Yeah,
But
I'm still working.
it's
I'm
important.
still working there.
man, I'm tired. I'm like reliving these things was like, this was like emotional roller coaster for me today.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the answer is people will be people.
People are people.
Yep.
You're going to have to put things in the cost of doing business bucket.
Yep.
Deal with drama if it's a distraction, but if it creates distraction just by feeding it, then don't talk about it. Right. Oh, that's so good. Like I gotta like that's hard to put into practice. Like that's a really good tip for you guys. Like there were some massive nuggets in this conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed us talking about some of the mistakes we've made with people and some of the mishaps.
Schmeverly, Schmevin, and Schmitney.
Yeah, don't hire anyone whose name starts with SCH. Like, hey, as entrepreneurs, we got to look for patterns, right? That's the lesson of the day today.
Oh,
love it, guys. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Hey, we've got I think 16 5-star reviews. We appreciate those so much. Like, if you got value from this, like the algorithm with reviews, it's part of how it works. We'd be so grateful if you subscribe and review. Don't subscribe and review if you didn't like the show or you didn't think it was valuable. Seriously, don't. Like, we don't deserve it.
If you got to this point, you're still listening to it, you didn't like it, like
maybe you're kind of a little strange, but hey, but we love you guys. Thanks for watching the Big Business Mistake Show. And we're coming with some power stuff next time. And we're going to be coming with some power guests so you can hear their stories as well. So this show won't just be us. We're going to bring in some powerhouse guests.
Yeah, we get to dig into their dirty laundry.
Oh, that's going to be way more. I'm excited to do that. That's going to be good, guys. Awesome, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.